So a little bit about me in my early years. These are two of my favorite pictures I could find of myself when I was a wee young boy. I think I'm like 13 or 12 over there in my metalhead days, and then that's my first DJ show I ever did in my entire life. I want to say I was either 14 or 15, DJing on a little tiny controller for about four people. It was like my, crowning achievement back then. I thought I was really, really cool. I think that was my profile picture for like 3 years, probably. Um, so yeah, and then I like these two pictures at the bottom because it kind of shows that nothing has really changed from the time that I was like 14 years old, and that picture was like 6 months ago. Um, so no matter what you do in life, never change. Be the same person you always were. So, like I said, I grew up in San Francisco. I started playing guitar when I was 12, and like I was 100% convinced that I was going to be in a metal band. I don't know if you can tell, but I was like a metal fucking punk, and I thought I was super cool. But yeah, I was super convinced I was going to be in a metal band and tour the world in a smelly van, and I was super stoked on it. And I didn't even know what dance music was. And then I want to say when I was 14 or 15, which is pretty young to be seriously considering what you're doing with your life. But at that point, I was like, I'm a professional. I'm doing this full time. So I tried putting bands together, and everyone's 14 or 15, so they're just finding out about girls, about, things like weed or, underage drinking, which I don't condone at all, internet. Um, but yeah, so it was just really hard to keep a band together and, get people as focused on music as I was trying to be. And then I was in school one day and I saw this kid making beats on his computer, like hip hop beats. And I realized that I could do that, but, at first I tried recording myself as a metal band, and I was like, cool, I'll play guitar and I'll, program drums and I'll do it all. And I was horrible at it. I was really, really, if you've ever tried, it's like the hardest thing of all time. I think still now, knowing what I know with production, I probably still couldn't do it at all. And then I had a couple friends, really good friends of mine, that actually were producing electronic music at 14, 15, 16 years old, and they kind of were like the gatekeepers for me and showed me the world of electronic music. And I was like, okay, cool, I don't know anything about the music at all, but like I found out about dubstep, and dubstep and metal are super close to each other, and I was like, cool, it has the same energy and vibe, and most importantly, I can do it all by myself with no one else helping me, and as long as I work super hard, maybe eventually something will happen. And I guess considering I'm standing in front of you guys talking now, I worked pretty hard, or something worked out because I'm here. Um, and I think that's probably enough about that. But yeah, so that was what? I'm 26 now, so that was almost 10 years ago. And I kind of just worked myself to the bone, and I had a lot of people help me along the way. I went to some incredible places like Icon Collective. I feel like I saw Brian in the back there somewhere. Um, I'll talk about him. I'll talk to him later. Um, and then I ended up here, and now I tour, 150 to 200 days a year, and get to make music and do what I love in life, and it's pretty cool. It's not too shabby. Which brings me to how did I make it? And also, this, just so you know, is a picture from 2015 that is still my personal Facebook header. It's kind of sad. But it's still like my favorite picture of all time. This is from my first show in New York at Webster Hall. And I had just met Sonny Skrillex like a couple months before that. And I was walking around New York, and one of my friends was like, hey, I saw on Twitter that Skrillex is in town. Like, you should just call him and see if he'll come to your show. I was like, you guys are stupid. There's no way this is ever going to happen. I literally met the guy on the internet like 2 months ago. So I texted him, and I mean, you see the results. Luckily for me, Sonny was a huge fan of Webster Hall and Girls and Boys and the guys that ran
the show over there, and that's still to this day is probably one of the coolest moments of my entire life. So, how did I get there? I think the most important thing that I have to say in this world is about failure and people telling you no. Um, I think and I was a big proponent of this myself, especially in the early years. But I think a lot of people try to, and it's not your fault if you do this, but I see it all the time. People blame external factors on why they're not getting successful. You know, corrupt music industry, everyone knows everyone, you pay your way in, blah, 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 whatever. And in reality, you just have to get told no enough times and fail enough times that you realize that the problem is yourself. And like, from the age of, like you saw, I started DJing when I was 14, right? And I played, that might have been my second show, because my first show, I don't think there are any pictures from. It was a very similar situation, but I was playing this like high school dance party that one of my friends organized, and all the kids there wanted to hear hip hop, like it's just a regular high school dance. No one is going there expecting to hear anything besides pop music, and I literally got booed off stage. Like, I mean, no one was drinking because it was, a bunch of 15-year-olds, but like, I'm sure water bottles were thrown, stuff was thrown, and I was booed off stage maybe 10 minutes into my set. And I was just playing like crazy dubstep. I just had this I had this harebrained idea that like, I was just going to make it happen. And like, all of a sudden it was going to be like a movie, and everyone's just going to be like, this shit is crazy. And like, that's not how the world works at all. But like, my point is, you have to have enough of those experiences to realize that like, and this is another thing I learned at Icon, which is the music school down the street over here in Burbank, North Hollywood. The only thing you can change is yourself. You can't change the situation around you. And all you can do is like work on, well, okay, I sent a song into that label and they didn't like it. Like, it's not their fault, like music is the most subjective thing in the world. Like, you could think something you do is great and someone else will hate it and someone else will love it. But like, if time and time again you're getting told no, you have to realize that like, you just have to keep working, and it's just not your moment. Which also kind of gets to the no shortcuts shortcut, which, that's probably the biggest thing I get asked is like, is there any way, like, if I go to school, am I going to get there faster? If I do this, if I do that, whatever. And there's no shortcut other than just working harder than literally everyone else around you, A little bit later, I'll get into working smart and not hard, but I will say, for the beginning of your career, like, there's literally no substitute for spending more hours than the next guy in the studio. Like, when I was going to Icon, it was a 9-month program back then. Now it's 12 months. And for the first 4 weeks before I started school, and, up to like, I want to say 18 months after I graduated, every single one of those days, I went to school, whether I had school, whether I was already graduated, whether I hadn't started yet. And I was there from like 10 a.m. to most nights 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. And I lived in Marina Del Rey, which was a 45-minute, 50-minute drive with no traffic, maybe a little bit less. But I was getting like 2 hours of sleep a night, which is not healthy. So, I'm not saying that you should do something that's unhealthy, but the fact is, everyone around me who I saw working at that level, whether it was Nightmare or Keizo or Slander or any of the guys that have come out of the same school as me and done really incredible things, those were the guys that I saw at school every single day when I was there. They weren't leaving early. They weren't showing up late. Like, they were just there and they were working. And you can learn everything in the world, and you can have all the cool gadgets, and you can have everything, but like, if you haven't put in the hours to understand how to apply them to yourself, then it really doesn't matter at all. And then I guess kind of, conjoined with that would be what I call the full dive, which is, and this is a tough subject because, this isn't something that everyone can do. And for some people, it's a lot harder than others. But the only other thing that I've seen, and it's kind of the same as what I was just saying, but the only time I've ever seen anyone really get to make it in music is when they fully dive in and fully commit. For me, that meant when I dropped out of college and decided to do music full time, before I even knew that I was going to end up at Icon or anything like that, I committed to, not going out, not going to parties, not trying to hang out with girls, like not do anything and just work and try to get to where I wanted to be in life. And, you know, and this is kind of a shitty thing to say because, obviously now I'm married and I understand what it is to have a relationship and a person that, depends on you or you depend on. But a lot of people that I knew who had really incredible talent just like couldn't make that full commitment to working every single hour of the day. Maybe the person they were with, whether they're still with them or not, would have been supportive of that, but I understand why a lot of people couldn't be. I mean, literally like shutting, and I still deal with this with my wife all the time because of, when I'm in the studio and I'm working, like I'm away in my own place and, there's multiple days in a row where I'm gone for 10 hours, even though my studio is literally like divided like this, like our bedroom's here and my studio's here, but like I'll go in there and I won't leave. And that's just like kind of the life of a producer. And so I guess, having someone who is supportive of that is going to be really important. But back to this point is, whether it's a relationship or a job or whatever you need to do, being afraid of not having enough money or not, missing out on things that your friends are doing or a relationship or whatever it is, like you literally have to throw all of that away and just like, kind of steamroll yourself in one direction. And yeah, I don't really know if I have anything else to say about it, but like those two things are like the most important things. Like you could know nothing about producing music today, and if you apply those two concepts and do it in the right way, which I'll get to a little bit later, you'll find some sort of success. It's just that simple. And that's why I call it, the no shortcut, no shortcut. Because it is a shortcut, like if you're going around in circles like this and you're not changing anything that's going on, then obviously it's going to take longer than if you just cut out all the bullshit and you just go straight ahead.